Welcome to Made for Mondays, the source for digging a little deeper into the Believers Church Sunday messages and finding ways to apply them to our daily lives. Together, let's take a deeper look and find a way to bring Mondays back to life.
Hey everybody, welcome to the pod. My name is Heather, and who are you fellas?
Howdy, Heather. It's me, Jamey.
Hi.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy
It's
New
Joe.
Year. Joe.
Oh, you said that yesterday
that
was the
me.
last time.
You can do it as
Okay,
long
good.
as you want
I was
to.
going to say, you've got this is maybe the last day you can say.
No. I'm arguing right now with a couple people, including Jeremy, that New Year is a season.
That's
at least
past.
through January.
Through January?
Yeah, it's a
Are you
season, a
insane?
New Year season. It's a resolution season. It's fun. Don't
Not for
diminish.
the
Don't
whole
take it down
month?
to one day.
The month?
Yeah,
That's longer than Christmas.
I'm not going to say Happy New Year on January 30th. I'm just
mean, do you
saying
say
like
Merry
You
Christmas?
just said you're saying Happy New Year for the whole month.
No. I think it's a New Year season.
Do you say Merry Christmas on December 1st?
He probably does.
Maybe,
I mean,
yeah. But
it's the same idea.
It's Christmas season, December 1st.
Okay.
You
But I
just
still
made-
wouldn't say Merry Christmas on December 1st, just like you shouldn't say Happy New Year on January
6th?
30th.
Oh, yeah. We're still in that grace period.
I'm saying
Today
you
is
can
the
say it
last day.
today because
Okay.
it's our first podcast
Yeah.
of the new year. So
Yes.
you're allowed to say it
But
today.
now it's over.
Okay.
But now
Happy
you're
New Year,
done.
listeners.
You need to stop.
Okay. Done. That was the last one.
Yeah.
Enough out of you.
That's a pretty aggressive start to the pod, I feel like.
Can we
And
start over?
welcome, friends. We're so glad you're here.
Man, pounds on Joe.
Guys, we're going. Is this our, let's see, we started the podcast in 2020.
We did.
It
It was
is
such a
now
great year.
It was a good banner year.
Yeah, that was such a great year. That's why we started it
Year.
then. Everything was going so great.
Yeah, it was going so great. It's 2025 now. That means this spring we're going to hit 5 years.
Crazy.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow.
All right. So before we get to that, usually we have weekend chit chat,
right.
but we were on break.
We were.
So break chit chat. What'd you guys do?
So we did our family Christmas thing, and then during the break time, Bonnie went to Florida to be with family. So I had a 5-day downtime, and I did a little bit of work because I have to stay on track with message prep. But I also forced myself to do something social just about every day. So I
Yeah,
had
that's
lunch with friends and breakfast with friends, and
I know.
I was trying not to hermitize, and and I think I was pretty successful. Like I had this, it was like I was telling Tyler about it, who's also an
Yes.
introvert, and I was telling him about my break, and he just looked at me like, that
Oh,
sounds
if
like
only.
the best 5 days you could ever have, and it really was pretty good.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah, it was nice.
I know we came back as a staff on Thursday because
Right.
we had to get Sunday ready. And you were telling me, I wasn't all alone. I made myself
Yeah.
socialize one time every day.
Yeah.
Which is,
that's-
I'm very proud of you for
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a growth step for me.
Yeah.
Kind of like Joe with his football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But different.
Did you
But
make
much different.
anything besides peanut butter and jelly and eggs?
Oh, actually, so when Bonnie goes out of town, my thing is I would love to get like all my favorite junk food in.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
Not smoothies. You did not have to
I didn't
endure
have
the
any smoothies, but I also did not have any junk food because there was so much leftovers from Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
Yes.
And then I went out to eat a couple of times.
Did you get wings?
No, that was the one thing that I was like, I'm going to have wings while Bonnie's gone, and I didn't get around to it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so but I kept thinking, look at how much money I'm saving. So that was pretty good too. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Joe,
Yeah.
how's your break?
Oh, it was great. Every year, or the last couple of years at least, we both have a pretty good break. My wife and I, and we usually go on a little mini trip or something. But we didn't do that this year, and it was great. Our family Christmas stuff it's a lot. All of both of our families are around here, so it was pretty spread out over 3 or 4 days.
And you have big family.
A big family, yeah. So we actually were celebrating our family reunion Christmas thing was like the 15th or something. So, Christmas season. That's what it's about.
Right.
Wait, you're still celebrating a Christmas
No.
thing?
December
My
5th.
first
Oh.
was December 15th,
It's
I
like,
think.
what?
But the last
Although
one
Doug
was
just
like,
celebrated Christmas this past
yeah.
weekend.
Oh,
With his
wild.
family.
I think
Yeah.
my last
Okay.
one was the Monday following Christmas, so like 29th or something. Yeah. anyway, so the family was good. And then sprinkled in the midst of that, Samuel was here from Ohio, came to get his dog back and take her back up there and stuff. So, yeah, we got to hang out with them and had some friend time. Like, it was a nice little balance.
Yeah.
Also had a couple days of, like, rest and,
It's good.
Yeah, got a break and felt good.
Yep.
Yeah.
We went up to New York for a few days with my family, my kids, and we took the train from Norfolk.
Yep.
The way there was good on the train. By the time we were coming back on the train, I don't want to do that again.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
really?
it's too long.
Oh.
It's too much.
How long is it?
It's like 8.5 hours. I could just drive there.
I mean, you could, but not in a whole lot shorter time. Six
Then
and
you'd
a
have
half
to
Yeah,
drive.
but then I can like get out
True.
and not
Oh,
be
yeah.
on smelling everybody on a train
That's true. Fair.
all the time. No fresh air.
My favorite
No
part
fresh air.
about your family trips, because y'all do this every year, is Spencer's highlight reel afterwards.
know. He
His
does
little
such a
video
good job with
montage.
those.
He did a food one this time, him and Kendra.
Well, they always do that too. There's
Okay.
Spencer does the like big montage video, and then Kendra does first bites. So every time we're eating something, someone
gotta
has to
get
take the
documented.
first bite, and it's the best.
Yeah, that's
like
fun.
it's really fun. We're kind of foodies, so like that is also part of the trip destination. Is like
Yes.
where are we going to be able to eat the
Well,
most
Yes.
I love that.
Yep.
yeah, so we did that. We also always get tattoos when we go on these trips. We all have to get matching tattoos, which is an adventure. So that was really fun. But yeah, and we got to see Trey Boy, who is our youngest son, who lives out in Fargo, North Dakota right now. It was minus 15 last night, I think.
Oh my gosh.
So
Yep.
yeah, nice and chilly for
I was
him.
FaceTiming you the
Right
other
now?
day in short sleeves. I'm like,
Yeah.
this kid.
He was. Yeah, he was FaceTiming when Joe came in my office, and he's like in short sleeves sitting out in his truck. Joe's like, "What are you doing?" He was like,
Bundle up.
I was
feel
just
good."
coming from a car, from inside to my car. It's fine." Yeah. But yes, that was really fun. And we got to see some of my family who still lives up in New Jersey. So that was good. And then we had, a few days of just downtime. So it was a good
Yeah.
break.
Very good.
Now we have so much to do in the new year.
We do.
I'm so
Yeah.
excited about it. Everyone's rested up, ready to hit the ground running. It's going to be awesome. And part of the new year is we're starting a new Bible reading challenge.
Yes, we are.
So can you tell us a little bit about that, Jamey?
So we're going to be reading through Psalms, Proverbs, and the entire New Testament. Unlike last year where there's a catch-up day, there is a reading every single day, but it's relatively short.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a chapter. There might be a few times where it's more than that. But, so I had someone yesterday that was like, oh, man, we're having to read Luke again. We just finished, reading Luke. And first of all, griping about having to read
Yeah.
the Bible. I mean, I don't want to Jesus
That's
juke,
tough.
but that's pretty low. So
You're 6 days in, guys.
right,
Come on.
you can do this. But what's been cool is already we've read. There's some of the Psalms each week, some of the Proverbs each week, and then the rest of it is the New Testament reading. So
Yeah.
it should be a good reading plan.
Yeah, it is going to be good. Did anything stand out to you so far?
Well, I just love being in Proverbs.
Mm-hmm.
So today was Proverbs chapter 1, and just the book of wisdom, the little axioms that they're principles. That's one of the things that as you read through Proverbs, don't read it as scripture promises.
Right.
Read them as scripture principles. So generally speaking, these things are true. And I love the book of Proverbs, and I hope I almost called this year the year of wisdom, and I was going to do a bunch of wisdom literature in the Bible for our reading plan, but ended up on year of invitation. And
I was going to say, what is this year?
it's the year of invitation, Joe.
We had a call out yesterday.
Yeah,
I loved how like Proverbs opens up just the book describing like what the book is for
Yep.
and what it's about. But then the first axiom is in verse 7, like, fear of the Lord is the foundation of true knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline.
Yeah.
So that's like the first like nugget that we get, is just setting this foundation of like, we need to fear the Lord.
Yeah.
And that's going to set us up for like all this other wisdom that is about to be downloaded to us through this book.
Yeah.
So I think that's just such a cool
Yeah.
way just in this first chapter. Anything stand out to you, Joe?
Yeah, I actually jumped back after hearing your message yesterday. I jumped back to last week's reading in Luke chapter 2 because I think maybe we even talked about this through our reading plan last year on one of the podcasts. But what stood out to me, like hearing you speak yesterday about our mission and getting off mission and back on track and everything, I remembered what we read here in Luke chapter 2 last week was twice there Mary said, and I read it in the Christmas story for Christmas Eve services, that Mary kept these things in her heart. And so I just really started thinking about that and thinking that when we're trying to get back on track and get back on mission and stuff, that's a pretty good step to take too, that because I think in those moments, Mary understood the magnitude of what was going on, but still took time to like deeply reflect what was going on in God's plan for her. Like she knew this was like, okay, this is the plan being carried out, what I already knew, and still took time to keep things in her heart. And I think that meant like self-reflection or reflection of the plan going on.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
Well, we kicked off yesterday our new series called Here for Good, and we really looked at Believer's story a little bit and a little bit of your story. So what's going on in this series? Can you give us a little bit of an overview?
Yeah, the gist of it is just to get a fresh look at who we are as a church, remind people this is what we're supposed to be about, and then even taking one step further back to say, like, what did Jesus have in mind when he launched the church? Because ultimately, that's what forget what we're about. We're supposed to be about what Jesus is about. So it's kind of looking at this idea of like, who are we? Why are we here? Why is it important that a church like Believers exist? And what makes us unique? I mean, there's, as I talked about yesterday, gobs of churches around. What's unique about who we are and what we do? But then wider picture, what did Jesus really have in mind?
Yeah. One of the phrases that has become really popular around here this year because of something your counselor told you is don't make it weird.
Yeah, don't make it weird.
But you started off the message just kind of sharing this really amazing story about a conversation that you had over several weeks with this sailor that you had. And one of the things that kind of came out of that is just like church is weird.
Church is
like,
weird.
Church is like a weird thing. We kind of get together.
And if you're in it all the time, it doesn't feel weird to you.
Yeah.
But if you're coming in from the outside and you step into this thing, it's like, what in the world is going on?
Right. And for like some people have just grown up in the church, but there's a lot of people that have come into it. They thought it was weird, but then after they've been in it for a while, they don't think it's weird anymore.
Correct.
So just hearing you kind of talk through that stuff again, like we come together and we like sing. Like where else do you come together and just sing with people for half an hour? Like, where do you come and just like listen to people like talk at you for an hour, you know? So just thinking about all of that stuff. What other things like kind of pop into your head about like just if you were coming into church, like what's the weird stuff that goes on?
Boy, I don't know. Like we've tried to eliminate as much weirdness as possible. But Carrie Newhoff had a post today talking about just weird things that Christians say. You know, which I think, like in a lot of church settings, more traditional type settings, that's a thing. I think, like, you know, calling everyone brother and praise the Lord for the blood of the Lamb and, you know, all these things that, like, if you're not initiated, those things just kind of come off as weird.
Right. Yeah.
So I think we've tried to eliminate some of the religious language that is standoffish to people.
Or at least if we use it, we try to explain it or define it. Yeah. We don't always get that right. But
we don't always get it right, and you can't always explain everything. But yeah, I think that's one of the things that we've tried to eliminate. I think also in this is not a dig on any type of church, but in a liturgical church where there's most people who are in it know it, and so there's no instruction given. Like I grew up unchurched, and I've been to growing up. Almost all of my friends were Catholic, and so I'd go to church with them if I did a sleepover at their house or whatever. Go to Catholic church, and they're up and down and repeating and whatever, and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, and no one explains it.
Nobody explains it.
Yeah, you just got to know,
You gotta know.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Like if someone from not a church setting walks into that, that's very intimidating.
And you're supposed to know when it's not bold print, you don't say it. When it's bold print, everybody says it.
Yeah.
That's how you know, and everybody's supposed to know.
Yeah, no one told me.
Yeah,
Or
I
even
didn't get the memo.
or even reading scripture out loud like we do.
Yeah.
Every once in a while,
Yep.
stuff like that. Because that was a hard lens to put on. A good one though, because it doesn't feel weird to me.
Right.
Even the stuff we talked about.
Yep.
So it's crazy to think about. Like
Yeah.
even the
Yeah.
singing. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Where else do you
do that?
sing as a crowd?
right. Yeah.
I mean, you go to a concert and you're singing
yeah.
along, but you're not being led in singing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
It's
you're not
different.
singing to someone or about someone.
Right.
Yeah, it's just
It's different.
And you
It's
don't do
different.
that to open a lecture either.
Right.
Like, so any other
Yeah.
setting where a lecture would happen at work or something like that, you
Yeah.
don't start with, all right, let's sing a couple songs.
Let's warm up with a couple songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, let's chat stats. I know this is like your wheelhouse, Joe. You love a
Yes.
good stat, and so do you, Jamie.
Uh-huh,
so,
I do.
Just the general stats that you shared.
I brought them just in case.
Do you want to go over some of those with us?
So the first stats that I talked about were like regular church attendance, where regular church attendance is defined as once every 3 weeks. That's how we now define regular. 47% of Americans are part of a church or a place of worship, mosque, synagogue, church, down sharply from 70% just 25 years ago.
That's staggering.
Yeah, that really is. And that trend's, I think it accelerated during COVID, but there's no sign of it slowing down, really.
Because you hit me at first with it dropped below 50% for the first time. I was like, dang. And then you said down from
It was
74?
70%.
Or 70.
70%, yeah.
Wow.
Just 25 years ago. And then the other stat that I shared was 3,000 new churches being started every year, but 4,500 churches closing every year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just so interesting. Do you feel like the 3-week attendance is true of believers?
Oh, 100% true. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. So like Easter, those kind of, Sundays where attendance kind of swells upward. Like it would be nice to feel really warm and fuzzy about that, but honestly, most of the people who show up on that day, it's just everyone who comes rather sporadically throughout the year. They all decide that's the day that they're going to be there.
Right, that's one of the one they count. Yeah.
Yeah, so like even if I talked with our staff about this just last week, but even if we doubled on a big day like Easter, in reality, even doubling is pretty much just what our normal crowd is. So, we're a church of about 1,000 on a given Sunday, but the reality is we're a church of about 2,000.
Right.
So if you take all of the kids who are in Next Gen, they come every other week at best. And so like the number of kids that are being served, like our average attendance is 230 or something in Next Gen kids. But there's over 500 kids that
are here regularly.
We serve regularly. So yeah, that's just it's just kind of interesting, like we're really a church twice our Sunday size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the reality.
In any of your reading with those stats, did you see anything like, so now they define it as once every 3 weeks. Has that changed over time? I mean, I'm sure it has. But did they used to define it?
It used to be every Sunday.
Every Sunday you got it, yeah.
And then, it starts trickling to well, people are coming every other week and now people are coming, I mean, truthfully, you can read some things and they'll say, like people consider themselves, like you go into our community and say, where do you go to church? They might come 3 times a year.
Yeah.
And they'll say, oh, Believers
my
is my
church,
church. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we wouldn't say that, but that's their assumption is they're engaged.
Yeah. Like
come
if
here-
I go, that's where I go.
That's where I go.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so true. Well, yeah, speaking of local stats, you gave the P-Town Smackdown,
I
which
did.
I live in P-Town, so Portsmouth, for those of you who are watching who aren't from the Hampton Roads area.
Yeah. 170 churches,
Yeah.
Protestant churches. That's the best I could tell. Like, so I was searching, and I left out a couple cities on the south side in the first service, and I apologize for that. For those over in Norfolk, I do apologize. I also did not look it up in Suffolk either. So I just did the 3 cities, the major cities.
Yeah. Oh.
Just kidding.
We are in Suffolk. So.
I know we are. But I really just did the three, and Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, and it's hard to find. Like
It is hard to find.
It's hard to nail that down. So like that's a generalization. There are 505 Protestant churches in Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, and Portsmouth, but 170 of those being in Portsmouth. And when I went and looked at the demographics of the city of Portsmouth, it works out to be 1 Protestant church for every 576 citizens of Portsmouth. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
That's a lot.
And Portsmouth's a wreck.
And Portsmouth is a wreck. And I was trying not to, do.
I can say that. I'm a Portsmouth resident.
Yeah, my son lives there. Like I lived there. The church started there, but it's a mess. And but that's true of. I mean, that's true of all
Right.
of our, all of our cities. That's true of all of us. And I say this all the time in Discovery Experience. Like our community definitely doesn't need any more churches, but they do need different kind of churches.
Right.
And so, like I sometimes will kind of roll my eyes when I hear about someone planting a church here, because I'm just like, for crying out loud, there are so many churches here. Part of Portsmouth is called Churchland, right? Because there's so many churches. But it is true, like if some of these churches that are being planted are different kind of churches, they could probably make
Well,
help
that's
make a
that
dent.
4,500, 3,000 number,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
there's all these churches that are closing and yet all these churches that are being planted.
Yep.
So I guess the idea is that the church planters feel like they're offering something different than
Yeah,
these
they-
churches that are being closed.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like in our network, the Irresistible Church Network that we're a part of, maybe you guys have heard this on your calls. I have heard of several churches now that are going to these dying churches and trying to like revitalize them and like bring them into their church
Yep.
kind of fold and just bring them into like a campus or like a
Yep.
relaunch situation instead of like letting them just die out.
Yeah,
To
Liquid-
say like
Liquid Church
let
in
us
New Jersey has
like
done-
kind of come in and
Yep.
help.
Yeah, Liquid Church
Get
in New
this
Jersey
back
has
on the
done
ground,
that.
yeah.
Several of their campuses are churches that were on the way out, and
Yep.
they joined in partnership with them to do a revitalization.
Like you were here, you were in this community,
Yep.
you have a building, like
Yep.
all of the foundational
Yep.
pieces are here. Like let's just get back on
Yep.
track, back on mission, which is one of the biggest things that you were
Yeah.
leaning into in this message was how did we get so off course?
Yeah.
And I love that your response to this, Jamey, was the fault for this really lies with people like me, people who are leaders of this movement that is supposed to embody Jesus to a world that desperately needs him.
Yeah.
So how do you position yourself like that to say like, this is my fault. This is leaders like me. This is our fault.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. It would be easy to point the finger at cultural pressures and all of these various things. That would be the easy way out. But I think the sad truth is almost from the get of the church, So like I say it's me, but I think it's like all throughout church history this has happened. The church is just very easily gets off track, and as a leader of a church, I mean the decline of the church is happening. I mean it's disappointing. It's a little discouraging, but it's happening on my watch. Like in the last 25 years, that's been the most productive. That's been my career. And the church is losing ground during my tenure, and I think all church leaders ought to be able to look in the mirror and say, like, what are we doing that is contributing to the state of the church today. And like I think as a church, being a part of a network of churches that are trying to stay community facing and engaging our communities where they are, that's part of trying to make us better. But I mean, we have to acknowledge that we don't always do it great, and so we're trying our best. But I think it's fair to say that we haven't always modeled it perfectly.
Yeah, that's so good. So you were talking about Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Do you remember Blockbuster,
Yeah,
Joe?
I do,
Are
actually.
you too little?
No, I do, and I threw a little bit of shade at Jamey too with this, because he's talking about Blockbuster, but he didn't even, unless maybe Derek probably did this, but you didn't even get the video game part of Blockbuster.
Oh, yeah.
That was a thing.
Yeah, I know it was.
Friday nights, mom and dad are probably getting movies, but we jumped straight to
got the
video
video.
games.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
rent
Well,
a
they didn't
game was
start that.
awesome.
They didn't start with the video game thing going.
Yeah.
They added
Yeah.
that later to try to
Right.
hang on.
Yeah.
And I was also in the DVD era and stuff. So video games and DVDs, you run a big risk. Man, I really want to play this game. You get home and it skips all everywhere. Like
Yeah.
that's what you had to worry with.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah, then you got the
didn't really
chapstick
know,
out.
You didn't really know struggles.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like, the struggle for us was if you didn't rewind the VHS
Yes.
tape, you'd get fined.
Get charged.
Yeah. So you had to rewind. Be sure to
kind.
rewind.
Be
Yeah.
kind and rewind.
Rewind.
That's right. So, yeah, that was our thing.
All right, so Blockbuster. You gave
Because,
this
you throw the
example.
cassette in, and if it's at the end, oh my gosh, I have to hit a button that
Yeah.
rewinds
Right.
it.
That's worth a couple of bucks.
Terrible.
Terrible.
Yeah. Right.
Nate used to work for a video.
Of course he did.
and
Nate has worked everywhere.
Yes, they had like the dual rewind
Oh, yeah.
machines
High
that they would
tech.
have to get them in, and they'd
Right.
like super speed rewind them, but they'd
Yeah.
still charge you if you brought them
Well,
in
yeah.
not rewound.
Because you had to pay Nate to do that.
Yeah,
Right.
I know
Right.
exactly.
Yep.
So, anyways, you gave this example of Blockbuster losing mission.
Right. They had mission drift. For
Yes. So, how does the church relate to that?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, they lost their mission was to be the leader in rentable home entertainment in the world. That was what they said they wanted to be. And they clearly lost sight of what their mission was. Their mission became staying open. And I think the church has largely lost sight of their mission, and the result is what Jesus described when he's launching the church. Most churches don't look like that. They are not taking ground and advancing and withstanding the attacks of the enemy, the spiritual enemy. We look pretty, I mean, generally speaking, pretty pathetic.
Yeah.
And that's not what Jesus started.
Yeah. So Blockbuster kind of like hitched its wagon to this one thing and
Yeah.
wouldn't like get like
Right.
just kind of keep up with the times and like
Yep.
go in a different direction to keep their mission moving forward. So how do you feel like the church has allowed the enemy to keep us linked to these little mini missions
Yep.
over the years and not continue to like move with the big mission?
Right. So I love this. I love this question, and there's so many things, and most of those things, like they're noble things, relatively good things. You can make an argument for those things, but I think they are contributors to this like lesser mission. And one of those, and I think one of the big ones, is just denominationalism in general, because the church splintering, like Jesus' prayer in John 17 was all about this unity of the church, and we often read that and we think about the context of our local church, and there's an application of that. The church, the world will look at the unity of a local church, and they will believe that the message that we teach is true because of we're so commonly bound together. But if you just like take a step back and look at the church, and you see, I mean, who knows how many hundreds of denominations are out
Right.
there. A watching world looks at that and says, that's ridiculous. And even when I was a kid and I used to see all these churches on all these different corners. I mean, Methodist church on this corner, Baptist church on this corner, Episcopal church on that corner, Catholic church on that corner,
Right.
all within a block of each other. I would look at that and think, what is up with that? And I think, every denomination started because they felt like they were taking a stand on truth for something. That's how they all splinter around. And we're currently living through, like the United Methodists going through their own split. So even the denominations are splitting into smaller denominations because they're taking stands on things that sometimes are like they're legitimate stands. But I do think, as a general rule, like just denominationalism is one of those things that has undermined the overall mission of the church. And you think about like all of the denominational hierarchies and the people who are on staff all the way up and down these organizations who are all tending to their denomination instead of the actual mission of what the church is supposed to be. I mean, what a waste of resources, what a waste of energy, just all of it, I think. Culture wars, I think, are a big thing, and the politicization of the church, and that's not just recent. Like, it would be easy to say that and say, like, I'm talking about the last 2 elections. No, I'm talking about, like, from its inception, the church is lured by political power and has been for centuries, and every time they do, it's terrible. And it undermines the mission of the church. We're not being kingdom-minded. We're grabbing power, and that is not what we have been called to do. And I mean, I've referenced this book a bunch of times, but Bullies and Saints by
John Dixon.
I mean, he just goes through all of church history, and like it's been a thing from the beginning, and it's a terrible distraction from what our mission is. And we don't seem to learn the lesson. We just keep going back and trying to grab power, and that's not what we're supposed to be doing. The culture war thing, too, is like that could be a recent thing, but it's not that recent. Like, you can go back to when I was a kid, like all the legalism stuff, go back before that. It was abolition. It was, I mean, it goes all the way back. The church engaging in just culture war, like choosing issues that are, maybe societal ills or whatever, and that's the thing that they're going to beat people over the heads with instead of modeling the sacrificial love of Christ, which is what we've been called to do.
Yeah, I think you can make the case for other demographics as well. Like it feels, some of the churches feel like it's just a simple segregation of like race and ethnicity. And I think that can distract because I think you're much more susceptible to that cultural pressure.
Yeah.
It all ties together so methodically, like the culture wars with race in this country. And all that together just distracts you from the mission for sure.
Yeah. Jamey, you shared some of your personal story too yesterday, and this realization that church mission was so much more than all of that other stuff that you were experiencing. So what was it that got you so excited that you went all in to accomplish this mission?
Yeah, so it was this college class, Introduction to Missions, where Dr. King was my professor's name, and he just kind of walked us through, like, missions is about, like, taking the gospel from where it's known to where it's not known. Like, that's what missions is. And that's what that class was about. And you can't understand missions without understanding the book of Acts. So it really became like a study of the book of Acts. And he just laid this case for what the mission of the church really was. And the thing that was blowing me away, honestly, it was the mission of the church. It was what was happening as you're reading through those opening pages of the book of Acts. But even more, it was like the disconnect from what my experience was. That was what was blowing me away. Like, I couldn't believe that the mission of the church was like communities that were being upended and transformed in such positive ways. And my entire experience in the church up until that point was so negative. And here I was, like a teenager, trying to follow Jesus. Like, I'm driving myself to church in my beat up '79 Chevette, and like I'm the only orphaned kid there. You know, like everyone else is being drugged by their parents to go to church, and I'm intentionally going with my buddy Gary Cataranak, the only other Christian I knew, and we were going to church because we wanted to figure out how to follow Jesus. And it was an uphill battle. Like no one was making it easy. People were piling on. Like we both were economically disadvantaged. We're wearing jeans where everyone else is wearing
your ear
suits.
pierced.
Had my ear pierced and my hair long, and we liked loud music. And those were the things that, like, it was almost as if they were saying, you can't follow Jesus like that. You know, you got to get rid of all that stuff to follow Jesus. And so, like, here we were trying to follow Jesus, and it was hard to do in that context. And then I get in this college class, and I'm reading what the church is supposed to be doing. And all I could think was, like, we got to do better than this. Like, if this is what if the purpose of the church is the redemption of the world is what Dr. King said, well, then we gotta do a much better job than what we're doing. And so I don't know why, like, I don't know if it's just naivete or what, but like, I'm thinking I can do better than what my experience has been.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out and start a church. I mean, that's how we started thinking about being missionaries in another where the gospel was less known. And so that's why we ended up going to France, because we were like, we're going to start a church that's going to reach people where they are. And we did church revitalization instead of church planning while we were there. And we've done church revitalization here. I mean, Believers was a very traditional church when I got here, and me and the previous pastor worked really hard to shift a lot of things, and that shift continues today.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought yesterday was so good because we dived specifically, like topic-wise, into where the church falls short, the capital C church falls short. And yesterday was just a good, like just a broad, especially with the year of invite and where we're heading.
Yep.
Like it was just a perfect way to kick off the year with reminding us what the overall mission is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you shared a Bill Hybels quote.
Yeah.
Risky.
I know.
Real
I didn't
risky.
hear anything in the crowd.
Well,
That's because most people
most
don't
people don't
remember
know
who he is.
There's nothing like
if
the
you want to Google him. Yeah, most people don't know who he is anymore.
But the quote is great.
Well, yeah, not only is the quote great, but let me just say, like, Bill Hybels has been canceled because of some things that he did, allegedly, because they've not been necessarily proven.
Right.
But Bill Hybels and Rick Warren, the two of them, have had more influence on the church of the 21st century than just about anybody. Mm-hmm. And while he may have, like any of us, not done it perfectly, he sure did an awful lot of good, and the church is still reaping the benefits of his passion for the local church.
Yes. So Bill said, "There is nothing like the local church when it's working right. Its beauty is indescribable." You're going to have to read it probably.
Yeah.
It's just beyond notice. Its power is breathtaking. Its potential is unlimited. It comforts the grieving and heals the broken in the center of community. It builds bridges to seekers and opens its arms to the forgotten, the downtrodden, and the disillusioned. Go.
It breaks the chains of addictions, frees the oppressed, and offers belonging to the marginalized of this world. The potential of the local church is almost more than I can grasp. And Bill, when he would teach, he said that all the time. And when he would teach, he would often get teary. Because it's true. When the local church is doing what Jesus told us to do, it's a powerful, transformational force for good. And, the news is full of church stories that are the opposite of that. And so that's an indication we have gotten off mission. But I believe that what Jesus put in motion, like the reason Jesus put it into motion is because it would be the hope of the world. It's what Dr. King told our class there at Practical Bible Training School in Johnson City, New York.
Yeah.
That the church, the mission of the church was the redemption of the world. And that's a very lofty mission. And it's not just hyperbole. It is what we have been called to. And then that verse from Acts 1:8 that I didn't even really have a chance to unpack yesterday. Jesus gives us the power through the Holy Spirit to accomplish the mission. So it's way outside of our scope of being able to accomplish, but he's empowered us to do this thing.
Yep.
And when we do it in his strength and in his power, it's beautiful. And when we get in the way, like Bill got in the way and like I get in the way occasionally, it gets ugly and sideways fast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the series verse that we're memorizing this time is so good.
Yeah.
It's from Galatians 6:9. It says, "So let's not get tired of doing what is good, and at just the right time we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up."
Yeah.
And so as you walked us through next steps, that was, of course, the first one. So to kick off the new year, that's kind of maybe that's your New Year's resolution. You're going to be memorizing scripture this year, and I hope this is the first one that you get locked into your memory.
Yep.
One of the other next steps that we were taking this week was to attend the Invest workshop.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's on January 26th, and the Invest workshop is. I'm so looking forward to it. It's a workshop just about how can we invest in the lives of the people around us, and we're in this very weird cultural time where we're rapidly becoming a very post-Christian place. So how do we invest in people in ways that respect their journey? Because everyone's on this, spiritual journey kind of thing. So like not just dragging people to a line of decision, which is what like a lot of evangelism workshops in the past, that's what their emphasis is. This is really more about like, how can I be highly relational in ways that allow Jesus to work in and through the relationships that I'm a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I would love for that room to be full.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe, what is that night going to look like for us?
So it is going to look like a Q Common style round table. I think Jamey's going to lead us to kick us off, and then like a bunch of small group or round table discussion around it. We've done some similar things like that on different topics. And I love those. It's a great change of pace. Love it when it's in a big room like that and going down to a round table discussion. And then, you'll see on the registration that we're also providing dinner. Yep, and so you can sign up for that. We got childcare, we got everything going for that. I hope it's going to be a big night. I think what I'm most excited about is how we can kick off. Like it feels very exciting, the flow of things to start the year of invitation off. This seminar, followed by shared on the podcast in December, followed by the packing event that we'll have in February. So a good way to put that in action, what we're going to learn at the seminar and stuff and through this series.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And space is limited for that, so you're going to want to get signed up ASAP. It's all on our app and on our website, so you can get all the details there. And then we just want to get you guys back here for this Sunday's message. What are you excited about with this Sunday?
So this Sunday we're talking about it's impact teams is really what we're talking about. And I'm talking really about what we want for people, and there's this tension of we want something for you, but we are asking you to serve, and that seems paradoxical.
Yeah.
And so we'll kind of talk through why is that a thing, why is that important, and why is, even though we're asking something from you, it's actually we're offering something to you.
Yes.
Right.
And I want people to be able to see that what we're asking of people is actually for their benefit.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. It's going to be so good.
I'm excited for that topic too, because in Discovery X, when I've led the tours before, I try to hit on that. I think it gets lost a little bit.
Yeah.
Like the small group, B group side of the relationship building is obvious in that intimate setting, but it's the same with impact
It is.
teams
Yeah.
and serving with a group of people together, doing
It
life
really
with them.
is.
It's absolutely the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we've got time for today. We do hope you'll join us on campus this Sunday at 9 or 10:45. And if you can't be here for some reason, you can always catch us on YouTube at 1 o'clock. Thanks for being here, friends. Go and be love.